Okay, so are we rolling? I think we're rolling. Let's dive right in then, shall we? Today we're taking a look at Chuck Woolery.
Oh, yeah, Chuck
I
Woolery.
think everybody knows his face, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't?
but the story behind the face, that's where things get interesting.
It always is, right?
So we've got a few recent articles
Yeah. Yeah.
about him, and I've got some really interesting stuff here. Before Wheel of Fortune, he had a Billboard Top 40 hit.
Wait, really?
Yeah, a psychedelic pop hit.
You're kidding me. I had no idea.
I know. Naturally Stoned, 1968,
Wow.
with a band called the Avant-Garde.
Okay, well, we got to talk about that.
Yeah, so let's peel back the layers here.
Let's do it.
So obviously everyone knows him from, Wheel of Fortune and the other game shows, but
Yeah.
but he was born in Kentucky, right?
Kentucky, yeah.
Served in the Navy.
Aboard the USS Enterprise, no less.
The Enterprise, can you imagine?
It's quite a resume already.
And then he goes and studies economics and sociology.
So what happened? How did he end up spinning the wheel?
Well, that's the thing, right? You've got this kind of traditional path it seems like he's on, and then boom, music career.
So he was always musically inclined.
It seems like it, yeah. He was in a folk band early on, then the Avant-Garde, which is where we get this psychedelic pop hit, but the guy also had deals with Columbia Records and RCA.
Wow, so this was serious.
Oh, yeah. This wasn't just some hobby. He was committed to music.
Okay, so we've got the Navy, economics, music, and somehow we end up with game shows.
It's really quite a journey. So he starts dabbling in acting,
Makes sense.
and then in 1975, lands the hosting gig for Wheel of Fortune.
Which, come on, that's iconic.
Absolutely iconic. And the story goes that Merv Griffin saw him on The Tonight Show and basically said, that's your guy.
No way. Just like that.
Yeah, pretty much. Talk about right place, right time.
It really is wild how those things happen sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But he had to have the talent to back it up.
Oh, yeah. No question. You don't just get handed those opportunities without being able to deliver.
Exactly. And speaking of delivering, he leaves Wheel in 81.
81, that's what, 6 years after starting?
Yeah, to make way for Pat Sajak.
Wow. It was a bold move to walk away from such a successful show. What was he thinking?
Well, maybe he just knew he had other things he wanted to do. I mean, after Wheel, he hosted like a zillion other game shows.
Like what? Refresh my memory.
Oh, Love Connection, Scrabble, Lingo. He even brought back the dating game.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. The guy was like the king of game shows for a while there.
He basically defined what it meant to be a game show host for a whole generation.
He really did. And he brought this energy and charisma to every show. But there was another side to him too, wasn't there?
Yeah, definitely. And it's a side that
Yeah, go on.
not everyone might be familiar with. He was a pretty outspoken conservative.
That's right. And a First Amendment activist too. He wasn't afraid to use his platform to voice his opinions, which is something you don't always see from celebrities.
Right, especially back then. And he really got into it online, especially in the later years.
I remember that. He actually got into it with,
Oh, yeah, with the president.
on Twitter.
Over COVID, no less. I mean, that's not something you see every day.
No kidding. It really shows how much he was willing to stand up for his beliefs, even if it meant ruffling some feathers.
He was definitely a polarizing figure. I mean, he had his own radio show, Save Us Chuck Woolery.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And that podcast he did with Mark Young, Blunt Force Truth, they didn't shy away from anything on that show.
No, they did not. It makes you wonder if that side of him alienated some of his fans. Or did it actually attract a whole new audience?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, you have to admire his willingness to be true to himself, even if it meant risking his career.
It definitely makes you think about, the balance between entertainment and expressing strong opinions, especially in today's world.
No doubt. And especially when you're in the public eye. People have strong feelings about everything these days.
It's a tough line to walk, for sure.
It is. But through it all, it's easy to forget that he was also a husband and a father. He was married 4 times, had 5 children.
And he experienced a terrible tragedy when his son Chad died in a motorcycle accident in 86.
That's right. That must have been incredibly difficult for him and his family.
Yeah, it's a reminder that behind all the fame and the opinions, there's a real person with real joys and real sorrows.
Exactly. And it makes his story that much more complex and honestly more human.
Absolutely. He's survived by his wife, Kim, and his children, Catherine, Melissa, Michael, and Sean.
Well, it's quite a legacy. You've got this psychedelic pop star
Yeah.
who becomes this game show icon. And then he turns into this really outspoken political commentator. It's not a straightforward story.
Not at all. It's
Yeah.
almost like he was constantly reinventing himself.
Yeah.
Always searching for something, always pushing boundaries.
That's a great way to put it. It's inspiring in a way. Like, he was never content to just rest on his laurels. He always wanted to try new things, explore new ideas.
What's the one thing that sticks with you from all this about Chuck Woolery? What would you want our listener to really think about?
It's the question of authenticity. Was he always true to himself, through all these different phases of his life? Or was he playing a role to some extent? Were all these different personas really just different sides of who he was? Or were they calculated moves, to further his career? That's the deep dive I'd love for our listeners to explore. The man behind all the masks.
That's a great point. It really makes you think.
It does. And it's a question that applies to all of us, not just celebrities. Are we always being our true selves, or are we presenting different versions of ourselves to the world?
That's something for everyone to ponder, I think.
I think so, too.
Well, on that note, I think that's our show. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
See you then.
And Act 10, we did it.
That was fun.
I always enjoy talking about these larger-than-life figures.
Me too. It's fascinating to see how their lives unfold, all the twists and turns.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Woolery was definitely full of surprises.
No kidding. Who knew the Love Connection guy had a psychedelic past?
Right. It just goes to show you never really know the full story.
Exactly. There's always more beneath the surface.
Well said. All right, I'm going to grab some coffee. Want anything?
Sure, I'll take a latte.
Coming right up.